This was originally designed to be solely about Two for Trees and Lincoln Cares. However, the weather dropped on us an unusual amount of rain, and so we want to update you on the effects of that flooding around the city. So we want to talk about that before we get to how Woods Tennis Center and Kevin Heim and all his folks and all the Two for Trees people are until we get to their part of the program. So we are starting with an update on the flooding that we're seeing around Lincoln and Lancaster County today. The good news is we have no reports of any injuries anywhere in the city or the county from the storms or the heavy overnight rain. So we want it to stay that way. Our main message today is this: don't go driving through flooded areas. Do not go around barricades. Turn around. Do not put yourself in harm's way. Beyond that, also keep the children out of flooded areas. Don't let them play around floodwaters, obviously. We also urge the public to stay informed with respect to future flooding. If you do not yet have a weather radio, our emergency management people certainly encourage you to get one and to use it. It's the best way to get early warning and to keep your family safe. Lots of new tools in our society these days for lots of different purposes, and this is another one. We have several officials here today to update you on the flooding situation, and we're going to start out with Public Safety Director Tom Cassidy, to be followed by the Public Works and Utilities Director Mickey Esposito, and/or Roger Feigard here from the Public. Oh, you're both here. Okay. You can run your own show then. Tom?
Thank you, Mayor. We had an eventful night, and the Fire Department and Police Department have been quite busy. We've responded to approximately 90 incidents where citizens needed help, usually because their vehicle was flooded. We've helped some people get to drier ground. We've been really fortunate we haven't experienced any injuries, but it was a very busy day. Salt Creek obviously has exceeded its capacity in a few places south of the city and along the corridor that runs north-south through Lincoln. So we do have some water that's behind the levee in a few spots. I was just briefed by the Glenn Johnson from the Natural Resources District. We do have a sand boil located along the east side of the Salt Creek levee at about J Street. That's being repaired right now by General Excavating. Shouldn't take very long to get that resolved, but as a result, quite a bit of water in the south bottoms north of the railroad tracks up to O Street. So I'd say that's where our primary problem area is right now. Salt Creek's running is about as full as I've ever seen it. However, Glenn Johnson from the Natural Resources District tells me that the gauge readings south of Lincoln along the Haynes Branch and Salt Creek are steady and in some cases falling. So it looks likely that we won't have much more rise in Salt Creek. At least that's what we're hoping. We had a couple of tanks, propane tanks, and maybe one anhydrous ammonia tank that were floating because the water is covering some of the Burlington Northern Railroad tracks in the vicinity of Rosa Parks and about the 200 block. However, I don't think those present any risk to public safety. The really good news, at first light at 5:30, I was down checking out the Antelope Valley project, and the weir there at N Street really did its job. If this had happened a decade ago, we would have had some major urban flooding in the core of Lincoln, and the Antelope Valley project spared us from a lot of that. So I think we're in pretty good shape. We still have a lot of roads that are closed. 84th Street between Havelock and Fletcher is one of those. It's a pretty significant thoroughfare, and I'm sure that Mickey Esposito and Roger Feigard will tell you more about those closings. But on balance, I think we weathered this pretty well, and things appear to be getting better. Mickey?
I'll pull up Roger Feigard in just a minute, and also we have the county engineer, Pamela Dingman, here to speak about county issues as well. Things are stabilized for now. We're looking good. Our roads are actually operating pretty sufficiently, but as Tom mentioned, we had some barricades placed where there was areas of inundated water. And what we need people to stop doing is driving through those areas, to actually turn around if they see barricades, if they see standing water, to turn around and take another route. What they don't see when there are things underwater is that we're losing a lot of manholes. A lot of manhole covers are getting displaced from this flooding event, and it presents quite a hazard to drivers in hitting those manholes. So please be mindful of those barricades. They're there to alert you to turn around and find a new route. I'll bring Roger up to talk a little bit about coordination with the state and where those closures are currently. On the utility side, just to touch base with you on that, we have our Lincoln water system, wastewater system, and landfills are stable at this time, but we're monitoring our situation. What we need people to do if they've had flooded basements or sewer backups, we really want to recommend that you hire a restoration professional to deal with that. So call them rather than dealing with those issues yourself. There is a health risk that you need to be aware of when dealing with sewage backup. So please, again, be mindful of those risks and call a restoration professional. Okay, so Roger, will you speak to?
For folks going in and out of Lincoln, just to talk to NDOR Operations Center, Highway 77 south going out of Lincoln is still closed in the West Denton Road area and also down by Sawtillo. So folks would need to find an alternative route if you're trying to get down to Beatrice. For most of the night and this morning, Highway 6 from 84th Street out towards Waverly and I-80 was closed, but I've been advised that is now open. But I do want to remind everybody, 84th Street itself is still closed, as Mickey and Tom mentioned as well. Certainly throughout the night, a number of spots. We've got Antelope Creek, Salt Creek, Dead Man's Run, Beal Slough, all of those areas that run through town. And for the most part, our storm sewer system worked pretty well. We had some localized flooding at 14th and Highway 2, 52nd and R, down on Yankee Hill in some spots. We put barricades out on those as calls come in. We're continuing to monitor those areas right now. Like I said, 84th Street is still closed. One of the things I think we can't emphasize enough is reminding people you can't tell what's under that little bit of water. I was out in the middle of the night. I also put back some manhole covers. Fortunately, the one that I put back, there wasn't any flooded water right at the spot so I could see it. But if you drive into one of those areas and that manhole is gone, you're going to drop in there, you can certainly hurt yourselves. We've got crews out patrolling the area and filling and putting those back in as we speak at this point. Another reminder right at this point in time, clearly we're seeing Antelope Creek has crested and going down, as is Beal Slough and Dead Man's Run. Salt Creek might be doing that. It's still pretty high, but it could easily be a couple of days. So for those people that live along in those low-lying areas outside of the Salt Creek levees, our storm sewer water can't get into Salt Creek, so that standing water is going to be there. So we need people to be patient, take some time. It doesn't mean the levees are failing, and if they've got water, they may need to get a hold of a company to help pump some of that water out and do that. And then the other thing I would just say, we'll continue to be on standby and watch the weather as we go into this weekend. We'll have crews ready to remobilize and go back out. Our main number is 402-441-7701. You call that number, you either get us with an operations center open or you get the on-call person that'll get the call immediately to us. So, okay.
Good morning, I'm Pam Dingman, Lancaster County Engineer. We currently have lost 2 rural bridges to this storm, one at approximately 99th and Pioneers and another at Sprague and Southwest 14th Street on 14th Street. In addition, we have closed 148th Street because we have a pipe north of Roca Road on 148th that has been washed out. We have several areas of county roads that have received substantial damage and have 3 to 4 feet of road that has been washed out. Due to the softness of our county roads, we are recommending that semi-truck traffic and heavy truck traffic stay off of the gravel and dirt roads. We still are assessing the damage and will continue to inform you as information becomes available. I did appreciate the opportunity to work with Lincoln Public Works last night, the NRD, as well as Emergency Management and the Department of Roads for the safety of our citizens. Thank you.
I think Jim Davidsaver might want to say a few words too. Jim's our emergency management person.
Good morning. Jim Davidsaver. I'm the Director of Lincoln Lancaster County Emergency Management. I don't think I have any new information to offer. The advice that's been offered up by everybody that spoke before me is exactly what we want everyone to know. I think to sum it up very simply, it's proceed with due caution. It's almost like severe weather, winter weather. Again, like I said, proceed with due caution. Any non-essential travel is discouraged. Make sure that you take that opportunity to assess the situation. If you slow down, stop, consider, is it safe to proceed? Should I stop and turn around? If you need to do that, my best advice would be to find an alternate route. So partnering with City Public Works and the county engineer, we're still in the damage assessment process. The Emergency Operations Center was activated at about 6:30 last night. We were on duty until about 1:30 this morning, and then back on post at 6 o'clock this morning. We're in the process of doing that damage assessment. We did receive some reports of property damage last night west of Lincoln and south of Lincoln. We're in the process of taking a closer look at those, but as the mayor said when he started this morning, fortunately no reports of any injuries at this time. So looking ahead to, they're talking about the possibility of severe weather throughout the weekend. I encourage everybody to prepare, to make sure that you're ready to deal with that. And if you need to cut your plans short, please do so to keep yourself and your loved ones safe.
Okay, very good. I hope you get the sense that we have a lot of good people in many different departments who are working to get us through this in the best shape possible. But again, it does require that every citizen deal with this in a smart manner as they go through their daily life. So let's hope for no more rain for a period of time, and we'll move forward here. Today, well, the reason for so much flooding is so much rain, of course. And obviously, communities try to prepare for excessive rain events, and that's what we've tried to do here in Lincoln. And actually, our Public Works Department has a continuing problem a continuing program dealing with flood control. And every 2 or 3 years, we work on a different part of the city to try to control flood events in that part of the city. And they've had remarkable success. I mean, you remember you used to hear a lot of stories about homes and neighborhoods flooding completely. You rarely hear those stories anymore, and cross our fingers here, we haven't had any stories like that in recent times. So as the decades go by, this city gets better and better all the time in terms of protecting all our neighborhoods from floods through the annual bond, not annual, we bond projects every 3 or 4 years. The electorate has been very good about approving those flood control bond issues. In fact, I don't think they've ever rejected one. Is that accurate, Roger?
That's correct.
Yeah. And in the next year or two, there will be another small flood control bond issue. And as long as we continue to do that, the situation will continue to ever improve.
Haymarket Park ball field, I know the roads are flooded as well. Is that kind of there so that the flooding doesn't go downtown? Is that designed to help keep flooding from going to the downtown area?
Well, all of the flood work is designed to contain it within certain designated areas. So yes, in part it's designed to keep it from going downtown. as you know, Salt Creek kind of wraps around our downtown. So it's been a particular problem in the past. But again, the improvements over the years are clear. I'm sorry, I didn't.
Valley project that you are hired into, you are seeing some definite benefits from that, with the flooding, that it was not as bad as it could have been in that area.
Absolutely. I mean, the portion of our city where Antelope Valley flows through used to be subject to very serious flooding. And as far as I know, this time around, it has been contained within the new floodway. So it's working just as it's supposed to work, to my knowledge. Is
Yeah,
that?
I want to make
right?
sure. I heard somebody say Antelope Valley, Antelope Creek flooded. We had a lot of water. I live in that drainage area, and I had 6 inches of rain this morning in my rain gauge, but Antelope Valley worked just as it was designed. The entire amount of water was contained within the channels. Some of the local flooding on the streets comes from the fact that while Antelope Creek and our major tributaries we design for 100-year storms, our storm sewer on our streets you can't afford to design for 50 and 100-year storms. So most of those are 5 and 10-year designs. So the water ponds in the street a little bit, but then runs off and gets into Antelope Creek. So the mayor's exactly right. That entire rainfall event last night was contained in the Antelope Valley watershed. Didn't get outside the banks, did just what it was supposed to do.
Roger, can you kind of show where the Alec Creek and Salt Creek line?
Okay, well, Salt Creek kind of comes along the west side of Lincoln and circles around and goes out northeast. The Antelope Creek area starts, this is Holmes Lake, which contains, but Antelope Creek and the improvement from Antelope Valley comes down through and drains into the creek here. Water backing up in this area and here's from the floodplain of Salt Creek itself. But again, all the water all the way from Holmes Lake down through here was contained within the channels.
How much of a threat? That was gonna go on I guess how much of a threat do you think you see when we have such a possibility of hearing about the forecast and more rain and so on? And is it pretty significant in terms of 22
Well, I think Lincoln is always prepared, and certainly with the amount of rain we've had, any additional rain we get, most of it's going to run off. But from Lincoln's standpoint, I'm fairly comfortable. Our storm sewer system and our channels work very well. Our coordination with NRD is pretty good. And we'll have people again on call and on staff to respond to those situations where there is some localized flooding. So I think we're always prepared but not overly concerned.
I'd like to just quickly ask you, Roger, and also you, Cam, from the city and the county standpoint, given the incredible amount of rain last night, and consider that the biggest stress test we've had for a while for all of our water flow, what did you learn? What do you see we need to do right away?
Well, I think certainly 6 inches over the night, slow and steady, is one of the bigger rains I've seen in quite a while over a large area throughout the night. I think it proves that the coordination and planning between county engineer, the NRD, the Corps of Engineers, City of Lincoln, our watershed management pays dividends, and that we're on the right track. Within Lincoln, we didn't see much significant damage, certainly within the street systems, culverts. We didn't have as many problems maybe as the county, but I think it says we're on the right track. We need to continue doing the things that we are, and with the support of the people for projects and bond issues, we can continue to even further reduce floodplain areas.
And what about the stress test for the county?
And I think, Roger, I think we need to make sure that we don't forget Nebraska Department of Roads. We were in contact with their operations center several times in the night. In fact, Department of Roads, the city, the NRD, and I had an extended conversation at about 1:20 in the morning, at which we decided to close many of these major arterials, just to ensure the public safety. This was something that we actually learned from the October 1st flood. So, you know, we're incorporating what we learned from the last storm. As far as preparedness, a lot of people don't realize that the city and the county work together hand in hand in an emergency event like this. We sit in the Emergency Operations Center right next to each other. We assist each other back and forth. We coordinate barricading together. So our barricade trucks are loaded and ready to go. Now our barricades are, of course, out on the roads. The City of Lincoln's barricade trucks were ready to go. Sometimes we will go ahead and barricade in the City of Lincoln. Sometimes they will barricade in our ground, because in an emergency event like this, what is the most important is that we work together for all of the citizens. We, of course, have sustained some pretty substantial damage. I think you need to remember, when you think about county roads, that county roads, in particular the culverts, are designed that they overtop in a 25-year event. If you're in the city, they're overtopping in a 50 or 100-year event, typically. So you will see more water over the roads in a minor storm event out in the county. This is dangerous. We don't want to drive through this water. You don't know what's under it, and we are out assessing the roads, and we'll continue to assess the roads and bridges as the water goes down.
Are we able to officially call this a 100-year event?
That is something I would leave to the experts at the NRD. They're very good at that. My gut feel is that we probably aren't quite to a 100-year event yet.
I'd agree.
Yeah, what about you? How concerned are you with the recent possibilities in the
You know, we're prepared. I mean, I think you need to use the phrase pray for the best and prepare for the rest, right? So, you know, we're prepared to deal with whatever we need to deal with. But we do have the potential for a perfect storm. Our ground is very saturated, and we've already sustained some damage, so we're going to be watching that with extreme caution. A lot of people don't realize that, you know, rain on an extremely saturated surface is about the same as rain on the pavement. It creates a runoff event, you know, immediately. And so we see those creeks start popping a lot sooner than we would if the ground had been dry.
For somebody who relies on say, a county road that a culvert that's damaged or a bridge that's out, is there some sort of an expedited repair process, or is this going to take some time before these are all replaced?
We will work to make temporary repairs. We're prioritizing them to the most critical areas first. So we will patch and repair those areas first, and then proceed. In the areas where we have sustained substantial bridge damage, those will probably be closed for an extended period of time while we prepare and permit new bridge plans. You might be aware, Charlie, the county has not built a new bridge in 2 years. In this next budget year, I was preparing to build one. Now it looks like I have 2. So it's obviously something that the county commissioners and I are going to have to speak about. And, you know, as of this morning, we have not been able to meet on this, but we will be meeting on this. And, you know, trust me, from my work with the commissioners, everybody wants what's best for the traveling public. The 2 bridges that are currently closed because of receiving substantial damage are located on Southwest 99th and Pioneer Boulevard, and on Southwest 14th and Sprague.
And now you said you had one in the budget, you're going to replace 2 now. Does that mean one of those 2 will set to be replaced anyway?
You know, unfortunately, that does not mean one of those 2. My 2 what I considered crisis bridges before yesterday was a bridge located at First and Raymond Road. It's a bridge where the water overtops for a span of about 200 feet in a minor storm event, such as a 2-year storm event or a 5-year storm event. And the other bridge that was on my critical list is a bridge just outside of Firth. But as Roger could tell you with engineering, our needs and our priorities are constantly changing to meet the public needs. There's a distinct possibility that I need 4 bridges, and maybe 6. And you know, as we have a chuckle about that, you might notice that today or tomorrow, the gas tax, which would be directed towards infrastructure, will go to debate again in the legislature. And so there's a possibility that we could get some relief from that, but of course that's not something that I can rely on at this moment in time.
I have one brief announcement. Susan Rodenberg discovered a tie-in between our 2 topics this morning. You're invited inside the woods bubbles to see the water damage from the rain.
You know, in my short time in office, we've already had two very extraordinary events. One was the Great Recession, the second worst recession ever in the history of the state, and the drought, the second worst drought we ever experienced in this particular town. So that's enough. Let's just cross our fingers with regard to the rain and not wish upon ourselves the third event. Thank you.